path may twist, but when I'm going down, hold on tight, the light is breaking through something new.
I would say this much. I mean, I thought he did a pretty good job of looking like a professional quarterback, got him in and out of the huddle. Like, this is kind of the bar we've set here, which is not a very high bar. We want these guys to be able to make us look like an operation that looks professional. And I think it did look like that with Deshaun Watson, not as much so with Shedeur. So he's got to tighten that up in practice. He'll get a lot of reps, I'm guessing, in this game on Saturday, because they'll probably play a ton. Certainly if the ones don't play, he's going to be up against it, because he's going to have backups out there protecting him against whoever plays for Buffalo.
Yeah, to your point, I wrote something today on like the weapons that the Browns have. They have playmakers now who can carry the quarterback.
Yeah.
Something happened in that Cleveland quarterback room that nobody wants to say out loud. Deshaun Watson looked like a professional again, and Shedeur Sanders, the guy with the golden arm, the guy everyone in America has an opinion about, walked away from Game 1 with more questions than answers. So now, heading into Saturday against Buffalo, there's one question hanging over this entire Browns season. Is this really still a competition, or did Cleveland already make up its mind? Stick around, because what the people closest to this team are saying behind the scenes tells a completely different story than the one you're hearing on national TV.
Deshaun Watson did in terms of some of the stuff. He looked more comfortable than I thought he would. He looked more healthy. But the thing I want to see him consistently continue to work on is, all right, now I want to see you push the ball downfield. Now I want to see you be able to move in the pocket and step up and make these throws. And I want to see, more of the downfield action throwing the football. For Shedeur Sanders, I want to see, all right, let's eliminate turnovers. You throw the ball downfield, you seem to be able to find the splash plays, but can I get to a point where now I can set my protections? I thought he did a much better job in that, and his footwork in the pocket was better. But now it's, hey, you got the splash plays. Let's eliminate some of the turnovers and still keep some of the chunk plays. So I want to see them grow in the areas, not just what they're good at. I want to see you work on the things that has been a knock on you.
Let's rewind for a second, because context matters here. The Browns went into their preseason opener against Chicago with a job still open. Watson got the start. Sanders came in for the second half, and on paper, it looked like a simple split rep audition. But football people who actually watch the tape, not just the highlights, are telling a much more layered story. One where the difference between these two quarterbacks isn't really about arm talent. It's about something much harder to fix. Operation, command, trust. And that's where this story starts to get interesting. According to insiders close to the team who broke down the Chicago game film, Watson did something simple but important. He looked comfortable, he looked healthier than expected, and he ran what one analyst called a professional-looking operation, getting in and out of the huddle, getting the calls off clean, distributing the ball to Cleveland's growing group of weapons. That last part matters more than people realize, because as one insider put it, the Browns aren't a team where the quarterback has to carry the offense anymore. They're a team where the offense is supposed to carry the quarterback, with playmakers like KC Concepcion starting to turn heads in camp, and Denzel Boston drawing buzz since spring. Cleveland has finally built a receiving room that can make a quarterback's job easier. Watson's job right now isn't to be a hero, it's to be a point guard, and by most accounts, in Game 1, that's exactly what he did. Then there's Sanders, 6 for 11, 79 yards, 1 interception. Now, numbers alone don't tell the whole story, and they shouldn't, but when you combine that stat line with what analysts saw on tape, a real pattern starts to form. Sanders has the deep ball, nobody's arguing that. One analyst flat out called it a beautiful deep ball. But you can't live on that alone, because right now, according to people who watch the huddle to snap process closely, Sanders is still getting the play calls in too slowly. He's still diagnosing coverages a beat behind where he needs to be. And when the operation slows down, mistakes start creeping in. Mistakes like the interception that ended his day in Chicago. That's the uncomfortable truth sitting underneath this quarterback battle right now.
Because maybe this is a contradictory statement to me, but didn't they say if they was going to get their work in, that the starters weren't going to play? So how is it that Deshaun Watson going to play in the third quarter?
Well, because this is still a quarterback competition, and he technically hasn't been named the starter yet, even though we all know he's probably going to be the starter, and that's enough air quotes for today.
I can't imagine he plays in this game if he plays well this week in practice.
They could easily pivot and change.
Okay,
Especially if you're Todd Monken and you look at what you saw on Saturday and you think to yourself, okay, right now, if I'm Todd, I feel like I have one guy that can play, at least week one, and that's Deshaun, because he was able to run a proficient.
But here's where this story takes a turn, because there's a contradiction buried in all of this, and it's one that head coach Todd Monken himself hasn't fully answered yet. If Cleveland is treating starters differently this week, if the plan really is that established starters don't play once they've proven themselves, then why would Deshaun Watson reportedly be in line for third quarter reps against Buffalo? Think about that for a second. If this competition is really still open, why does it sound like Watson might be treated like a guy who's already locked something up? One insider raised exactly that question live on air, pointing out that if Watson keeps performing the way he did against Chicago, there's a real chance the Browns pull him earlier and protect him, rather than risk him behind a backup offensive line. That's not a neutral decision. That's a signal. And whether that's fair to Sanders or not, it tells you something about how this staff is starting to lean, even if nobody in that building will say it directly. So what does this actually mean for Shedeur Sanders going forward? It means Saturday against Buffalo isn't just another preseason snap count, it's a referendum. Because unlike Game 1, where Sanders faced backups in garbage time, this next test comes against real competition. Joint practices against Buffalo's #1 defense, followed by whatever look the Bills' starters or high-level backups give them in the actual game. There won't be anywhere to hide. Insiders were blunt about this. The vanilla stuff you see in a preseason opener isn't a real preview of anything. The actual evaluation happens when a defense is trying to take your head off, not when everybody's playing it safe. For Sanders, the challenge is different, and in some ways, heavier. It's not about flash, it's about health. It's about trust that's been broken over years, not weeks. Here's the detail that a lot of casual fans are going to miss completely. This isn't really a story about arm talent. It's a story about durability and trust, specifically Watson's. Because according to people who've covered this team closely, there's a history here that goes back to the Kevin Stefanski era. Games where Cleveland genuinely didn't know until Sunday morning whether Watson could take the field. A specific moment against Baltimore where he told the team all week he was good to go, and then, game morning, said he couldn't. That's not speculation. That's the lived experience of people who've watched this quarterback situation up close for years. So when someone brings up Watson's health right now, not just whether he's playing well, but whether he can stay on the field for 4 or 5 games in a row, that's not a throwaway concern. That's the central question of his entire Browns tenure. And it's a question Saturday against Buffalo can't answer by itself. It's a question that only shows up over time.
And with Shedeur, I think the operation, Todd Monken's still talking about it, about getting it out of the huddle, getting the plays in faster, diagnosing what he's seen a little bit quicker. So it's the things that are hard to watch necessarily in the moment of the broadcast. It's hard to say,
right,
to understand some of that stuff. But, we talked about yesterday, Shedeur's got a beautiful deep ball, but you can't live on that alone. And I do think he's getting better at taking what's given to you and hitting a single. And not everything has to be a triple and a home run. It's okay to hit a single.
Let's lay out exactly what each guy needs to prove, because the people closest to this team have been remarkably specific about it. For Watson, push the ball downfield more. Show you can move in the pocket and step up into throws instead of just operating underneath. And most of all, stay healthy. Take the hits, get back up, do it again the next series. For Sanders, eliminate the turnovers, speed up the huddle, get calls in cleaner and faster, keep the splash plays that make him dangerous, but stop needing every single play to be a home run. Neither list is impossible, but neither one is small either, and both quarterbacks are being asked to fix the exact thing that's held them back, not just do more of what they're already good at. What's clear from the people breaking this down is that there isn't a consensus lean towards Sanders right now, not based on what's actually happened on the field. Even analysts who acknowledge his upside are saying in plain terms that right now, Shedeur has more room to improve than Watson does. That doesn't mean the job is decided. It doesn't mean Sanders can't change the conversation Saturday night, but it does mean the operation gap, the professionalism, the command, the little details that don't always show up on a highlight reel is currently working against him. So back to the question we started with, is this competition really still open? Based on everything coming out of Berea right now, the honest answer is probably, but barely. Watson looked like the guy who can run this offense today. Sanders looked like the guy with the higher ceiling, but the rougher edges. And Saturday against Buffalo isn't going to erase either one of those realities in a single half of football. What it can do is start to answer the only question that actually matters heading into Week 1 against Jacksonville. Not who has the better arm, not who has the better story, but who can be trusted, snap after snap, to run this offense like a professional when the lights are real and the hits are real and there's no more vanilla defense on the other side of the ball. Shedeur Sanders has the tools. Everybody watching this closely agrees on that. The only thing left to prove is whether he can put it all together before Cleveland runs out of patience to wait for it. If you want to see how this quarterback battle actually plays out, not the headlines, not the hot takes, but the real breakdown, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications, because this story is far from over.